What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're a catalyst for meaningful conversation. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I go by Sprang, and most weeks we dive into movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. But we don't stop there. We talk about the morals, the values, and the life lessons these movies have to offer. This week, we're going to be doing an episode called More Than the Fight. I've invited my good friend Nick Hot Coals Shephard to be back on the show as we talk about three different fighting dramas, The Wrestler, The Fighter, and Warrior, all to gear up for The Smashing Machine hitting theaters that week. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson taking a stab at an A24 film, heavy drama, looks to be amazing. We hope you'll go check out our website. It's bio.site/movies that make you. There you'll find all of our links to all of our social media channels on YouTube, Instagram, and elsewhere. You can also find our podcast link to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also check out our letterbox, which shows you all of our lists on the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. Before we dive into this week's episode, though, let's take a look at the next 4 weeks on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about Tron, the original classic with Jeff Bridges, and also Tron Legacy that was released just a few years ago. All that because we've got Tron Ares hitting theaters that Friday with Jared Leto, and Jeff Bridges is back. So we really liked the Legacy, but a lot of people didn't. But we're going to have a discussion around it anyways. We hope you'll join us. The week after that, we've got Scott Derrickson films. I've got a good friend of mine, J.R. Foresteros, from the Don't Split Up podcast and other things as well. You'll hear more about that on the episode, I'm sure. But he's a huge fan of Scott Derrickson. We've got Black Phone 2 dropping in theaters that Friday. So we're going to discuss his filmology and just kind of see what speaks to us through his films. What is he trying to say through his film? So looking forward to that conversation. The week after that, we've got the top 5 scary movies from the kids. We've watched some scary movies the last few years. We're watching a bunch in October. So we're going to have the boys walk down their top 5 scariest movies that they like. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I'm joined by my good friend, Coach Nick. We call him Nick Hot Cold Shepherd. What's happening, man?
Yes, sir. It's glad to be back, man. I appreciate you for having me on your podcast again. It's always a pleasure when we're able to reunite and have a good conversation. So I'm here to see what movies can make me move today.
That's awesome, man. Where you at today?
Right now, I'm currently at the boxing gym. We have a couple fighters getting ready to compete next week where they're putting in a hard sweat. That got me a little sweat going too, getting them ready, but getting them in shape.
That's awesome, man. I think last time we chatted on the podcast, you had an Achilles situation happening. How's that going? Is it healed up now?
God is good. God's blessed me to be able to be strong enough to get through that. It was a slight downfall in my journey, but it hasn't slowed me down enough to make me stop. It slowed me down enough to make me think. So right now, my moves have been accurate. They've been precise, and every step is needed to know where I'm going.
That's awesome, man. So do you have anything coming up yourself that we want to know about?
Right now, I'm currently focusing on just building better fighters. I completely, since my injury, I stopped worried about competing myself. I'm worried about having younger champions under me. I do have a young prodigy that's coming under me. He's 8 years old and he's mean. His name is Emilio. And Emilio, if you watch this, I want them to know that I'm very proud of the way you've been working, and I'm excited to see you compete next week.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, man. So other than, well, I think we actually hung out with you and posted something up on our Instagram after we did a workout with you. You helped the boys, myself and Christian. We all did some pads. We all did some gloves. We did some workouts. We had a lot of fun with that, man. The boys came back and they were doing some of the motions, some of the taps,
It
all
got
that
stuck in
stuff.
their head. It got stuck
Yeah.
in their head.
Yeah, we got to do it again though. You have any
Absolutely.
upcoming classes like that coming up again?
Absolutely, man. So right now, I currently relocated to TMAP Elite Training. You can see it right here. It's in Allen, Texas, and we have a big open area where we have a lot of people. The best thing about this gym that I love more than anything is that community environment. Like if I was to take this camera outside, you would see a gang of people all committed to their fitness journey, and that's gonna make you just come in and be ready to be motivated just to get into your journey as well.
That's awesome, man. I think one of the times we talked, I hurt my heels at the beginning of the year, and it made it so that I couldn't hit the gym like I wanted to. I actually had to take like 3 months off because it just it basically crippled me. I was in a boot for a long period of time. And then when I came back, I can imagine you kind of understand this too, but I came back and I was hesitant to really put myself out there because I didn't want to re-injure myself. And so I'm taking it easy. I did like 1 or 2 days a week. I'm excited that I'm back to 4 or 5 days a week now.
Yes, sir.
I added back the cardio days. I was only going the strength days, so I'd hit it up. I did 2 days a week, and then I did three on the strength days. But now I'm doing at least one cardio a week, sometimes two. Trying to just get healthy, stay healthy. Stay
Absolutely.
loose, stay strong. So it's been good though. It's been good. What let's outside of the boxing, what movies have you been watching? Have you been seeing anything in theaters recently?
Man, this is coming out tonight. I've been begging somebody to go watch it with me. The Long Walk, is that the name of it?
Yes,
Man,
yes.
it seems like a crazy, and just to think about it, I try to even think about it in boxing terms. Like imagine just throwing punches on the back, and you can't, if you stop, you get shot. Like
Yeah.
I was like, and now even just walking, like, how many days you think you would last if you was to be in the
Oh,
competition yourself?
I don't know, man. That's a long time.
Three, can't go under 3 miles per hour.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you saw this too, but I saw it on social media. One of the guys I follow actually got invited to this event in Hollywood where they brought in
The treadmills
the
while they're watching.
treadmills
Yeah,
and actually saw if they fell off or they went below 3 miles, they got kicked out of the theater and they couldn't finish the movie.
man, I know that was a crazy experience. I would have definitely would have wanted to be in that.
Yeah, Kristen and I both thought about wanting to do that, but I don't think there's anybody doing it here in Dallas, so we'll just have
We
to
can make it
imagine it.
happen ourselves.
We
You
should, we should.
movies that make you a movie event.
Dude, when it comes out on Blu-ray or it comes out on streaming or something, we should host something at the gym and we could get the treadmills out and see how well we did.
Now we're thinking. Now we're thinking. I like that.
That'd be awesome. Well, we are actually today talking about an upcoming film. It's dropping this Friday. It's called The Smashing Machine. It stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Emily Blunt, as well as others. It is directed by one of the Safdie brothers, who are really up and coming directors, kind of indie directors that are kind of making a name for themselves in the world of movie making. One of them starred actually in Happy Gilmore 2 on Netflix. And now we've got this guy has directing a movie by himself about this UFC fighter, and it's just the story of his rise and his. It seems like it's the rise, the fall, it's the comeback, it's the all the feels that we're gonna get from a sports biopic like this. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so we talked about a couple boxing movies last time or one of the times you were on the show. We talked about a couple of the boxing movies. This time we're talking about three different styles of fighting movies, but they all
Absolutely.
have that same vibe of like a story. It's deep into the story, it's deep into the characters about how they're rising from the bottom, how they're going to overcome their obstacles, and it's three different types of fighting. We've got The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, directed by Darren Aronofsky. Warrior, that stars Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy as brothers. Nick Nolte's in it also as their father. So that's a good one. And then we're finishing off the conversation talking about The Fighter, which is Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg. And that one actually got Christian Bale his first Oscar, Best Supporting Actor Oscar. And so, three incredible stories, really diving into the characters and what they're going through to try and get to this point in their career. So, we're going to jump into it. You ready?
Let's get right on into it, John.
Cool, man. So, what I also wanted to do as before we talk about specifically the movie, each movie is a different fighting style. So, the first one we're going to talk about, The Wrestler. What do you know about pro wrestling? Like, what has your experience been with pro wrestling?
About pro wrestling myself. So I'll tell you a funny story, John. So when I first moved here from Louisiana into Texas, that I always boxed in Louisiana, but my mom was telling me I need to try a different sport into actually getting into a scholarship, something that could send me to college. I said the best closest thing to boxing that schools may have is wrestling. So I signed up for the wrestling team. And then I realized all those guys were crazy. The workouts that wrestlers have to do is absolutely insane. Like handstands, going up the staircases and stuff like that, and just overall stability. They earned my respect. I tried to stay on the wrestling team. I lasted a month. and I said, "This isn't for me. I'd rather punch people in the face." So overall, pro wrestlings, they have my respect. Even the WWE turns where they're dramatizing it. It's still them putting their bodies on the line, and they're really going into make the things real seem real. They still have to put their bodies on the line. It's realistic regardless because they get injured from that. Speaking of pro wrestling, I'm gonna throw you off your topic for a second. Have you seen the reports of Rampage Jackson's son and his incident with the wrestler?
No, I hadn't heard of this. I know
So
Rampage Jackson was a UFC fighter, and he
yes,
actually been in a couple movies also. But yeah, what happened?
so with Rampage Jackson, his son, I believe his name is Roger. Roger basically was hired to go into a pro wrestling event to be a co-host or somebody, a guest star, I would say, rather than that. And with that event, Roger met the person beforehand, and they had a bad taste in his mouth because the
Mm,
wrestler hit him over the head with a fake bottle. But he didn't know that Roger wasn't an actual wrestler. He just knew that it was a guy, so he was making a joke of it. That made Roger upset. Roger was already scheduled to hop in the ring, but Roger didn't go in there to wrestle. Roger went in there to go fight. So
oof.
he just basically beat this guy unconscious and was hitting him afterwards. And it became this major outbreak on Instagram, Twitter, all social medias was talking about how bad of a guy he was and just the downfall that he would have from being able to go into this event. And if you see the image, you're gonna see it was pretty graphic, but you can see if you watch it all, it was a buildup. It became hot,
Hmm.
it became hostile. You could tell that he couldn't control his emotions at the time. And
Yeah.
also a lot of people criticizing Rampage because Rampage made a remark that I don't agree with. He said, "For my other children, I have money put aside for their college. For Roger, I have bail money because I already predict that he's going to be that." So you can
Mm,
tell that that family kind of already understood that he was a little bit hotter tempered. So
yeah.
overall, that was just a good way to bring in wrestling because that's one of the biggest debates right now within wrestling.
For sure, man. I remember that was kind of a big deal growing up. Is like I grew up in the '80s, and it kind of was. There was still a level of it that people thought was real. It was kind of like the WWF kind of had this stigma about it, about what it was. I actually started watching wrestling kind of in high school. My stepdad was somewhat into it, so we'd watch matches every now and then on Monday Night Raw or whatever, and I ended up really kind of enjoying the storylines. The whole point is the
Absolutely.
story. The fighting is just a part of the journey. You know, it's the strength that it takes to do these moves and these skills, the power and the emotion that it takes to do that. I every once in a while I'll go down a rabbit hole of watching old wrestling matches and how they used to jump off the cages and do pile
Man,
drives through
crazy stuff.
cages. It's nuts, you know,
That was one of
and
my favorite wrestlers, Jeff Hardy, just doing
yeah,
crazy stunts, just crazy stuff. But I can
yeah,
be honest with you, man.
yeah.
Honestly, when I really started watching wrestling, and I apologize,
No, you're
but it's
good.
because I was scrolling through the TV and it was a woman wrestling, and you know how they wear their. And then
Yeah,
I said, "Hey, I can sit here and watch this
yeah.
for a
Let's
second."
check this
And,
out.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that
for
made me
sure.
really get into wrestling.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think one of the craziest ones I ever saw was is called Mankind in one of his characters, and
Mm,
he faced off against the Undertaker, and then I went down this whole thing of the Undertaker and just seeing all the times that he just shows up out of nowhere, and it's the drama, it's the sports entertainment aspect of it, where they have storylines that they're telling. These people don't really hate each other most of the time. Some of the times there's some realness to it, but most of the
absolutely,
time it's just part of the story. But all of the violence, the moves that they have to do, the things they have to put their body through is real. There's no faking doing a flip off the top rope and landing on somebody else. Like you can't fake that, right?
you have to
So
do
there's
it.
some physicality to it that is true, that is real. My wife Kristen, she's not too into wrestling, obviously, but every once in a while I'll send her a clip of some fancy gymnastic style acrobatic move, and I'm just like, you might not like wrestling, but you got to respect the talent of
Yeah.
this guy or this girl putting their body through that and being able to kind of do it do it safely and all that stuff. So,
100%. Even and we could go into the movie top actors. It was one wrestler that caught my attention. I can't remember. I believe it was a Gold Dust. It was that ate
oh,
the
okay,
handful of
yeah,
worms. Like even though like he's a human, but he literally has to eat those real worms. Like So just not just putting their body on the line, but their overall health, and just to sell that role to you to make. That's why a lot of people were hurt when they found out wrestling wasn't real, because they did such a great job of acting. So
Yeah,
just
for
is
sure.
thinking of movies and actors, you got to make sure you give these wrestlers their credit for being great overall actors as well. Some of the best wrestlers became one of the best actors. David Batista, Dwayne Johnson, which we're discussing right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we talked about The Wrestler, directed by Darren Aronofsky, stars Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke's been away from the spotlight a little bit. When he jumps into the movie, he's already past his prime. He's at the end of his career. He had the big rise. Everybody knew him as the Ram. He's gotten to the end of it, and now he's doing these little small arena pieces, like in an elementary school gym, or he's at a convention center, but he's not at the big stadium. He's not at the big arenas anymore. He spends time at there's like a convention where they bring in some old wrestlers, and he's there and he's looking around and seeing all these old guys in their wheelchairs or in their braces or in their falling asleep. It's like he's seeing what this sport, what this career has done to his body, and you just can just see it on him. There's one of the matches that he has in the film is a hardcore match, and so the guy's got barbed wire, he's got glass, he's got a staple gun. He asks him before the match, "Are you good with a staple gun?" And he's like, "What? A staple gun? Yeah, just it's gonna hurt, but it's part of the thing." He's like, "Whatever you say, man." And it's like he's just at that point where he has to do it because he's got to have the job, he's got to have the paycheck, and so he's doing it. But then after that match, it ends up sending him into a heart attack, and so the rest of the movie, he's trying to figure out, what do I do with the rest of my life? So he's got a job as a box boy, back warehouse kind of job at the grocery store, and he asked for more hours, and so they put him in front. They put him in the meat area. What's really crazy is at first he's real hesitant because he's like, man, people know me, people know who I am. I don't want them to see me in this place and in this spot where I used to be the Ram and now I'm the meat guy. But he has a good time the first day. He has a lot of energy. He gets excited. So he's like, you know what? Maybe I can do this. And then a girlfriend opportunity comes along and she kind of turns him down. He goes back to work another day and somebody recognizes him as the Ram, and now he's struggling. So it sends him down a spiral, and he basically just decides, like, I can't not wrestle. So he goes back in the ring. Everybody's telling him not to, but he's like, this is all I got. This is who I am, and these people that are cheering for me out here, that's what I live for. Kind of one of the side stories too that I forgot to mention was he's estranged from his daughter because the wrestling took him away from his daughter so much that she just doesn't want anything to do with him now. So he tries to reconnect with her, and then this thing happens, and that also is another thing that kind of broke the camel's back with per se. So he ends up going into this match, and we don't know. The camera cuts to black, and we don't really know if he lives afterwards. But some of the stuff that kind of stood out to me about that is it works for any sport or any career where you really depend on your body to be able to do certain things. At the end, when your body can't do those things, what do you do with your life? I'm sure there's some boxers that come to mind that you could say had this kind of thing happen to them as well.
Yes, I 100% agree. So, you got to believe that a lot of people believe in their self to be superhumans. That'd be the best way to describe it. When you get into this mindset of doing these certain acrobatics that you're only 10% of the world can do besides you. You believe you're invincible, and then you get these small little things that start to happen. Hey, my back's starting to hurt. Hey, my leg's starting to hurt, but I'll just take a little cold bath and I'll be fixed up. And I believe that was his main thing. It was I can always do what I used to be able to do. And that's the thing that a lot of fighters need to understand, that you're going to elevate to a better version of yourself, but that's because it's a better version of yourself doesn't mean you could do the same qualities that you did before. So I believe his main issue was just not being able to let go to find his next element. And that's my problem too. I tell myself, if I don't have boxing, I don't know what I'm going to do next in life. And that's because you really mold yourself around this thing. For me, boxing
Hmm.
saved my life, and I'm pretty sure in this movie they made sure we understood what wrestling did to him, and it really molded him into the person that he was. So he's like, without this, I'm nothing. So you feel it at the same time, but you want him to go take a second shot, but you're also that person in his ear that you're seeing everybody else saying, "Hey, don't go do this," and you agree with him and you kind of disagree. That time for triumph is very short, and when you live through it, you want to chase it. It's a small high that you can never get rid of.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a sense too, I think, where you gotta recognize that there's different phases in life, and I
Absolutely.
think uh, being able to be kind of put aside the nostalgia, put aside the thing that you loved doing, but you can't physically do anymore, and you've got to find and put your heart and energy into something else, similar to kind of how you're doing. While you're not boxing yourself right now, you're investing in the younger generation. You know, it's like you got to kind of see, okay, this is where I'm at right now. It doesn't mean you're never going to get back in the ring, but it does mean that you got to take this time and kind of work on yourself and develop these younger folks, and that's going to make you a better person. When you also think about what it did to his daughter, uh, and that's a good reminder for us as well, as you have a newborn, a young son. I've got my sons, and they're all going through their different things in their teenage years right now. But I've got to recognize too that while I might have a career and I might have a job that I love, and I might have this other side thing that I love too, when it comes down to it, I got to make sure I'm also investing my time and energy into my kids, because that's going to be what's going to take care of me in the end. Or that's the love. The crowd's love's going to go away, but the love of my kids, the hope is that it never goes away, and that's going to happen by me investing in them now, for them to know how much I do care about them. I can relate to that a little bit. I had a situation in my prior marriage where I let a lot of other things come in to my life and take my attention away from my wife and my family. And when that marriage kind of fell apart, I was like, I'm not doing that again. I got to make sure that I put my kids first and my wife first, and then this other stuff is part of life, but it's secondary to the things that really matter, which are my kids and my family. So this
Most
movie definitely highlighted that, and I think there's a lot of the stuff that we see in this film that it's heartbreaking, because you want him to succeed in life,
absolutely.
but he can't see a way to succeed without the ring. So it's
My
crazy.
best overall review from that movie within itself is that when you lose yourself, it's easy to go back to what you know, but
Hmm.
going back to what you know made you lose yourself in the first place. So
Mm.
then you just go into a constant cycle of trying to figure yourself out. You will never get that satisfaction because you're going to just keep losing yourself over and over again.
Absolutely. Well, it's good stuff. I know Mickey Rourke was up for a Academy Award for that film. I can't remember if he got it, but he was definitely praised for that role. And Darren Aronofsky ended up getting Black Swan was the next film that he did, and that one
Mm,
was a similar
that's
story,
man,
but with a ballet dancer. And Natalie Portman, did win Best Actress for that one. So I think this one is very similar. This one took the wrestling side of it as an aged wrestler, kind of at the end of his life. He took Black Swan as a young ballerina at the peak of her life, but told a similar story where they both had to they both ended up finding this darkness that they had to kind of lean into. So very interesting. Cool,
absolutely.
cool. All right.
Black Swan's a
Oh,
classic. I love Black Swan.
yeah, man. We actually just saw it over at the North Park Mall for its 15th anniversary. They
Okay.
did a showing over there, so it was pretty awesome. Cool, man. So, second movie, Warrior. This is one of the first UFC or mixed martial arts movies that really took itself seriously, told a solid story, and was really well acted, well directed, and everything. It wasn't like one of those kind of throwaway MMA fighting movies where it's cheesy and it's just kind of over the top and doesn't really make sense. This one really dug into the characters. But before we jump into the movie, what's your experience with MMA, man?
Man, so I actually do train MMA fighters. I'm their strength coach. So I train with a lot of MMA fighters. And I can say, this is a debate that goes around the world. And I'm going to go ahead and give my general opinion. MMA versus boxing, the MMA fighter will win. They just have a
Mm-hmm.
lot more limbs to use against us. We can understand distance. We can understand everything. when somebody knows how to choke you out without you being able to swing at them, it's only so much you could do. I bite down before I go out.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike Tyson.
Take
That's
the air
awesome.
off.
Yeah, exactly. Have you done any MMA yourself, like in the ring, in the
I
octagon?
Yes, I have tried striking in MMA, but actually competing in MMA is not for me. The worst thing is I don't like grown man feet. So going into kicks and everything, I
Yeah.
will not let a grown man kick me in the face because it's not even about getting hit. What if it hits me in my lip and now I got a
Yeah.
staph infection in my lip because his feet stink?
Yeah. No, I get it. That's it definitely adds a little bit of element to it. Um,
Yes.
My first experience with MMA, I remember hearing about the UFC early on when it first kind of hit the scene, and it was always kind of this thing that kind of they put it to the side because it's not good. People are just in there trying to kill each other and all that stuff. And I think the movie, The Smashing Machine, addresses that even in the trailer. It talks a little bit about that. I'm assuming that it's kind of at the beginning of the film, but it kind of is trying to break down some of the stereotypes that people might have about MMA fighters. You know, we're not mad at each other. We're fighting each other just like a boxer fights another boxer. We don't hate each other. We're just in there to see who's the best, and this is what we have at our disposal. And so that's kind of one of the cool things about it. But what really got me into it was the Ultimate Fighter season 1.
Yeah, I love
Dana
Ultimate.
White ends up talking to some investors for them to buy the UFC. He had a vision for what the UFC could be. They buy it. He's running it. He develops this reality TV show where they're going to take these MMA fighters, they're going to train them, they're going to have them compete weekly on 2 different teams, just a tournament or whatever, tournament style. And then whoever is the best is going to fight. The top 2 are going to fight in a UFC event as the main event, and whoever wins gets a contract. And it's
Uh-huh.
just like it was so dramatic all the way leading up to it. And the thing that was interesting too is it wasn't stylized at all. At the same time, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone is doing a boxing show that's very similar, but I think it only lasted maybe 2 seasons. It was called The Contender, and it was the same similar concept. You're taking boxers, you're training, and then you're fighting each day or each week has a new fight. But this one wasn't. That one was stylized. You could tell like it was all produced in Hollywood. This one was just raw cameras, just like a live event would be, and so it really kind of amplified the energy of it. And so I just watched as soon as I started watching. I watched every week, and I even got the pay-per-view so I could watch the final. It actually wasn't pay-per-view; it was just on Spike TV back then. But I made sure to watch it. And there's so many stories about that match, that final match in that season. Forrest Griffin and I can't remember the other guy's name, but the 2 guys at the end were just beating each other up, blood flying everywhere, and they
Hungry.
said that the views went up every single round, like they just kept
Mhm.
blowing up because people are texting or calling their friends, you got to watch this, you got to watch this, and that really ended up setting the UFC on a whole different trajectory than they ever would have been before that. And it's crazy that came from Dana White's vision, but he's a smart man,
He's
and
smart.
it was the stars aligned to give them that fight. Like it's not pre-planned. It's not like wrestling. They didn't know who was going to win. This is just of all and out 2 guys that did not give up. The judges made the call on who won because they were just neither side was going to give up. So that was just incredible. So that's kind of what got me into UFC. I watched pay-per-views a little bit. About a year and a half, I kind of stayed really close, and then it just got so big and so many different new fighters, it was hard to keep up. And so I kind of every once in a while I'll catch a match if I feel like it. But yeah, it's still a big deal. I mean, UFC is
That's
still huge.
from my personal opinion, starting off with, I think now Dana White calls his new series the Contender Series. But starting off with the Ultimate Fight Champion, it was the best thing they can do for marketing. It was a marketing genius because all these fighters, even though they didn't win a contract, they won a fan base. So a lot of people started keeping up with these fighters and then gave them a name for themselves to be able to go secure other deals with other things. A lot of
Yeah.
people got sponsorships from that. It put money in people's pocket and it gained them fans. So I love what Dana White does. He's getting into boxing now. He's hosting the very first boxing event this weekend. Canelo
Oh,
versus
wow.
Crawford. He's partnering with them, so he'll be hosting it. So Dana's gonna do
Nice.
great for the world, and I can't wait to see what more he does.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, that kind of brings us to the movie. like I said, Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton play brothers that have been estranged from their father. Their father was an alcoholic and beat them and beat their mom. Tom Hardy was the older brother. He and the mom ended up leaving at some point when they were younger. Joel Edgerton stayed, as we find out in the movie, because he wanted his dad's approval. He wanted his dad to love him more. And he thought that if he's there when his big brother's not, then maybe he would get that love, but he never did. His father continued to drink, continued to be a horrible dad. And so now both the brothers have nothing to do with their dad. Tom Hardy, we find out, is also a veteran. He has come back to the States, and he is comes back to try and to live with his dad because he doesn't want to have any relationship with him. But the only thing he knows is fighting, so he's going to get in the gym. He's going to try to fight. There's a tournament. There's a huge, there's a fight tournament. A big billionaire is putting on. He's going to have a one night tournament like the old UFC used to be. There's going to be 8 fighters, and they're all going to fight two times in one night, and then 2 times the next night to crown the champion. They both the brothers end up being a part of this championship because they both need the money. They both are at the end of their ropes when it comes to finances, and they're just need this is the only thing they know to do. Meanwhile, Joel Edgerton's character, his wife doesn't want him to fight anymore. He tells her he's a boxer at a club. Instead, he's actually fighting at the club, and he's coming back and he's got money. So it's like both of these guys are leaning into what they have and what they know. Tom Hardy decides to let Nick Nolte train him, even though he doesn't want a relationship with him. He's like, "You're going to train me because you always did," and so we're going to go. They What's really cool about the movie too is once you kind of get into the fighting, Tom Hardy's the brawler. He's the puncher. He's going to knock you out in the first 5 seconds most of the time. But then you've got Joel Edgerton's character, who is
Technical.
the technical fighter. He's the grappler. He's the guy that's going to make you tap out even after he gets his face beat in that third round. He's going to make you tap out. So such a cool dynamic to have these two brothers, and a cool story to have them both like grow towards each other. The final match, the final fight, you've got Tom Hardy basically destroying Joel Edgerton, and then Joel Edgerton gets him in an armbar, and Tom Hardy will not tap. Ends up popping it out of the socket, but he doesn't want to give up, and so he's going to fight him one-handed. It's such nuts, just nuts. But ends up coming out while he's there that he actually is going to be Tom Hardy's character is going to be arrested after the thing because he deserted his unit in the army, and so he's going to have to be arrested,
That
taken into
scene was so
custody.
sad, man.
Yeah,
It is the moment when he just looked back to watch, and she like, I I gotta let it all go. I'm just letting my brother take it. It was a big brother pride, but it was also a sad moment.
yeah.
It still touches my heart to this day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what's some of the things that stood out to you about this film and the fighting?
Man, so just the overall grit that they showed that both brothers had to have, and this grit was beat into them early. So their dad was a major role in the way that they fought because they could take a hit. And they knew they could take a hit. And for a lot of people, that's a reason that they fight to this day. It's a lot of child abuse that goes on in this world. And some kids don't have outlets. So then they go to the gym and say, you know what? I always get hit on at the house. I can go to the gym and hit somebody back without getting in trouble. So I just want to make sure we mention that the gym environment is for those kids that's out there. And maybe it's not your parents that hitting you. Maybe it's your older brother that's hitting you and your mom won't stop it. Maybe it's your uncle that's babysits you sometimes. Maybe somebody's just hitting on you and you don't feel like you have no way to defend yourself. Make sure you go to a local boxing gym and learn self-defense. Use it the right way. Be smart about it. I found out a lot less people wanted to hit at me or bully me once they understood that I became a good fighter and I was training in the gym and became a trained fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think, I grew up in a home that did not have the fighting. I didn't ever get beat. But that's one of the things we talk about with the boys is sometimes movies are a way to show you a life that wasn't yours so you can be more empathetic towards those that have it different than you. Recognize that the world isn't everybody in the world doesn't have the same experience that you do. So these movies give us insight into that. And that's a good word, man. I mean, they got beat on by their dad, and they realize that they got to fight. They got to fight back. They got to do something to take care of themselves. to take care of their mom. So yeah, it's crazy. What do you think about the grappling game when it comes to the MMA?
So with myself with grappling, I'm not that experienced. I know mounts, I know side mounts, full mounts. I understand it, but and going into a real naked choke and just letting it be like effortlessly. I understand the call outs. I understand what goes in
Hmm.
side triangle, arm bar. I know all the call outs, but the flow of the things, I'm not experienced with it. But I love the scenes because I do watch UFC and I do watch actual fights, and everything transitions the same way. Even the moment where things got crucials and the announcers get hyped and they hype
Hmm.
everything up. It makes you feel like this is a real fight you're watching. It puts you on the edge of your seat. Even though you kind of know the outcome of it, you still want to say, will this play out the way I think it's going to play out?
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, when I'm at a bar or at a restaurant or something, and we're watching the UFC, a lot of people don't like the ground game, but there's some of those matches that are so interesting and there's so much going on that it's just hard to tell if you aren't knowledgeable enough, and that's part of the match. So there's this one training group called the Gracie Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that um, they're out of South America. And after every UFC fight, they do a follow up video, a live video on YouTube, and they basically break down all of the grappling that happened in the
Mm,
match.
okay.
And it's usually the person that won. Well, in this one match, it was George St. Pierre, and I can't remember who he was fighting. It wasn't a submission, but it was his defense of the submissions, his defense of the grappling that they're like, we got to do it. We're not going to talk about the grappling. We're going to talk about GSP's defense of the grappling because that was a master class. GSP wasn't a wrestler, but he's one of the best wrestlers that's never been a wrestler. He became an expert.
He earned his stripes. Like he was a stand up fighter, but this is the thing. For a lot of people that are trained in that actually compete in MMA, they understand if you're a striker and you're better on your boxing side, then a lot of people are going to be coming to take that and take you down to the ground because they want to get the advantage of you. That's why I say UFC and MMA is a good thing because it's so many different. It's mixed martial arts. It's so many ways
Hmm.
of fighting that you have to adapt to, and like you said, it's just a beautiful skill set to have when you actually know how to strike and defend yourself and then strike and defend yourself. It's amazing.
Yes.
GSP was one of those guys where you was just like, man, like this guy is unbeatable.
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you that are watching or listening and you're not sure who GSP is, but you do know Marvel movies, he fought Captain America in the opening scene of Captain America Winter Soldier. And I think he came back in one of the other films as well. But he was just a fighter that fought it was on the boat. He had kind of taken hostage all these people, and Captain America had to put him in his place without his shield. And that was a lot of fun to see him on the screen. But I always love seeing him fight in the octagon too. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, he was a great fighter.
Cool, cool. All right, we have gotten down to it, man. We are now here ready for the boxing movie. This is The Fighter. This is Christian Bale, Mark Wahlberg. They also played brothers. They were both professional boxers, but at this point, when we meet up with them in the movie, Christian Bale, being the older brother, is actually now a drug addict, and HBO is doing a series on him. He thinks it's because of his boxing, when in actuality, it's because of his drug addiction. We find that out through the course of the film. There's a ton of dialogue, a ton of scenes. There's not as much boxing in this film as what you might see in like a Southpaw movie or whatever, but it had some pretty cool boxing fights in it. Mark Wahlberg did a good job playing that character. Uh, Halfway through the movie, when he realizes that his world is not going to progress if he stays kind of in that camp with his mom and his brother, he basically cuts them off and says, I'm going to work with this trainer, I'm going to work with this manager, and I'm moving on with my life. As it gets down to it, he ends up taking some advice from his brother that he decides to put into practice in the next match, the next bout, and he wins the bout. And so then when he gets out of jail, they basically try to bridge the gap, and they say Amy Adams is his girlfriend. You got to work with Christian Bale. You've got to work together because I want you. I love you both. I want you both in my life. I need you both in my corner. And he ends up fighting again in a big, heavy match, big, great match. This actually saw two best supporting actor nominations and wins. His mom won in the movie, and then of course Christian Bale won as well. Amy Adams was just great in this movie as well. But such a great film, great performances, really touching, really moving story. You feel bad for Christian Bale's character, but you want to see him rejoice when he gets out of jail and he's going to see his friends again at the crack house. You're thinking, oh man, this is bad, this is bad. But he ends up telling them goodbye and saying, I can't do this anymore. And you're like, inside, you're just cheering with everything that you have because you're so
Okay.
proud of him for making that decision. Because that's a tough decision to make when you've been cooped up with the thing that gave you life, that you felt like that drug was the only thing that could give you life and give you like a feeling that took the pain away. To get out of jail when you've been out of it so long, it's so easy, I can imagine, to go back to that thing that gave you so much life because you've missed it. So to have that willpower to say no, to step away from it, to say goodbye to that life, I think he had to go to that house. He had to see
Yes.
those folks. He had to face those folks, even though they were his friends. He had to face them and say, I can't do this anymore. So that was pretty powerful. But yeah, overall, just an incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, you definitely need to see it. Nick, what are your thoughts on The Fighter?
Oh, I want to go back to their end conversation. Overall,
Yeah.
have you ever had a moment where you knew you had a certain friend group or even family member that you
Mm.
knew that wasn't good for you, but you still have those sweet moments in the back of your head, but you have to separate from? And how did you deal with it?
I feel like, all right, so here's my example. My example is that I had some folks in my life that I really wanted them to be my friends. I really wanted them to be my friends, so much so that I would do anything for them. I would put my needs and the needs of my life and my family um, to the side so that I could make sure that they cared about me, so that they thought well of me, and so they were proud of me, and so that they would embrace me. And that ended up being part of what led to my losing of my first marriage and my all that I talked about just a minute ago. That led to a very dark place for me. And it took me a year and a half of once a week at least counseling to try and figure out what's going on. Where is this coming from? And a lot of that stemmed from my father passing away when I was 7, and I felt like I needed that male affirmation. I needed that. I needed everybody to like me. I needed those guys to care about me, to want me to be a part of their group. Meanwhile, I've got family at home and I've got other friends in my life that are giving me that no matter what.
Yes, sir.
But for whatever reason, it's that group, and it happened in high school, and it also happened in my adult life where I wanted that group to want me to be a part of that group and to be embraced by that person. And it ended up, like I said, took me a number of years, took me 37, 38 years to figure out where's that coming from. And thankfully I came out on the other side. And I don't deal with that as much today. There are times when that feeling comes over me where, it's a friend or I want that person to care about, I want that person to invite me over to their house, or I want that person to come see the podcast, or I want that person to, but I can't control them, and I don't need to put my value on what they think of me. I know who I am, and I know who the people in my life that care about me. I can lean on them and know that they care about me, and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
So not always wanting that kind of thing. Not necessarily an exact representation of
No,
from the
but
movie,
you hit it
but
right on the head.
a similar thing where I had to make some tough choices and dig deep into myself to figure out how do I overcome this draw that I have to this group of people.
Absolutely. And based off the movie, like I said, it's hard to explain it unless you ever competed in a physical fight before. Winning a fight is the ultimate high that you can never satisfy unless you do it again and again and again. And some people that can't go back and win the fight or compete again, they're going to go to drugs because they're looking
Mm.
for that high that they've been chasing. I didn't walk out of the ring feeling like I'm walking on clouds. Once you get everybody's like excited for you to win, everybody's saying you become a champion, you feel invincible. So I believe the movie depict the lifestyle of fighters that can't fight anymore and necessarily have to go find that high again from somewhere else. And think about it. we have to be disciplined. For myself, I started boxing at 13. I had to stay disciplined. I had to not eat certain things that people eat. I would go to birthday parties as a younger child and watch people eat pepperoni slices, but I have a fight coming up and I got to say no to that. So when you get older and you started off so young saying no to everything, eventually you grow up and say, yes, you know what? I'm not doing what I was doing anymore. Yes, let me try this. Let me try that. And that's why I believe the movie was great on showing how easy it was for him to fall into his addiction.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. And as you were sharing, I remembered those lines in the movie that Christian Bale said was like, I just needed that high. I needed that high, but the high doesn't last any longer. I think that's another thing that, if we kind of going back to the first movie, The Wrestler, that crowd shouting, that crowd chanting his name was the high he needed to try and feel good about himself. And that's a codependency that a lot of humans suffer from, is that outward affirmation from someone else. And if we don't have that, sometimes we feel less than, we feel worthless. And that takes a lot of work to overcome those things. Like I said, I was 37 or 38 before I began to even just notice that this was a part of my life and that I needed to do something about it. And then it's still at times a struggle to remember my value doesn't come from what others think of me. My value comes from what I think of me, what those around me, those close to me think of me, and how they value me. My family, my close friends, the ones that really know me. That's the opinion that matters. I let those people speak into my life if I need some correction or I need some direction, but I don't worry about what everybody else thinks of me, because that's going to rise and fall with how well I perform or how well I do something, how well I give to them. So I just need to care about, what I think of me, what my family thinks of me. That's a tough thing to learn.
Absolutely, and especially now with the generation now. I still want to speak to you as the viewer. With this generation that we're in now, everybody has social media. How many followers you have on social media, how many views you get on social media. That's a high that a lot of people are chasing. I want to tell y'all that y'all are addicted to other people's opinions. Same thing that
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan just said. You don't have to be validated by them. If you got 5 views on your video, but you took your time and your effort and you created it and you went step by step, and that's your own personal project, then you have 1 million views in my eyes because you took the time to make it happen. So don't be so caught up in what other people think of you. Only be concerned of how you took the time to make what you need to make happen.
That's awesome, man. That's a good word. Another good word from Coach Nick.
Absolutely. A
Some hot
good word from
coals.
Coach Nick. Hot coals in the building.
That's right, brother. Hey, so what else you got going on? I know you got your social media, been there, done that, boxing. How can people connect with you online and otherwise?
Absolutely. You can find me at BTDT Boxing Program _ on Instagram. If you want to get a session in, I'm here at 109 North Greenville Ave at T-Mac Elite Training. Other than that, man, my life right now is constantly focusing on becoming a better man. Now that I just had my son, I want to make sure I'm a well role model for him, being the best man that I could be possible, and as well as just not being a role model for him, but for everybody that looks up to me. Being a coach, I understand that a lot of people need me to set a good role, need me to show them the steps by steps. And I'm here to just overall, I think I learned a lot of patience. And that's the main thing I just sat down and learned, is just how to sit down and not move 1,000 miles per hour, just 1 mile per hour, but go 1,000 steps.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's good. Yeah, we'll definitely post everything in our the description of the video, the description of the podcast. It'll be on YouTube, Instagram. We'll post clips of everything, and definitely, whenever you got something going on, don't hesitate to tag us in that story or tag us in that post, and we'll reshare it every chance we get, because we want to
Absolutely.
make sure that you succeed, because you're awesome, and I really appreciate you being on the show, being on the podcast. I appreciate your friendship and just your openness to talk about these things, and to dig deep a little bit. We could just sit here and talk about all the fights, but we're talking about real life. We're talking
Real
about
life.
how these fights represent the human experience and what we can learn from them. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you
Well,
soon.
John, this
Oh
is
yeah, go
number
ahead.
3, and I want to say, man, it's a lot more. This won't be our last time. We're going to keep on growing together, and I appreciate you every time you have.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Anytime you want to be on, just let me know. All
Absolutely.
right, we'll talk to you later.
We will talk to you later.
Thanks. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Again, you can check out all of our links at bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. Feel free to drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. So until next time, keep watching movies.